Okay, so let's get straight into this video. Now, the bottom half of this van we're doing in Volkswagen L345 white, grey. It's quite a nice pastel grey, kind of green colour. It doesn't quite show very well on camera, but when we get this all finished up and we get it outside for the drone footage, you'll see the colour in its full potential and in its full clarity then. Now, this was the colour that the customer chose. He wanted to change away from the blue that he had previously had on the van, and to be quite honest, now we've got both of the colours on this van, I have to say it was a very, very nice colour. Now, the gun that I'm using is my Segola 4600 Extreme Aqua, because it's got the 1.2 XL setup in it, which is why I was using it for this, because I wanted to put 3 coats down instead of 2, but just thin them down a touch more than I normally would, so I could get 3 like decent wet coats down, but not overloading on each coat. So I can get plenty of coverage. I can get around. I've got plenty of time to get in all these little niggly areas everywhere without trying to rush around the van, putting it on like quite heavy or anything like that. I just wanted 3 nice light coats. I was using a medium hardnet, and I've also used, I think, 10% slow thinners is what I put into the mix. Now, gun settings, I'm running this around about 1.6 to 1.8 bar, depending on the area of the van. So on some of the tight door shut sections, I was dropping the pressure down a little bit just to stop the paint from blowing out in the sort of areas where it caused a bit of sort of like centrifugal force, if you will, if I can even say it, because you've got those areas where the air will blow in, and because it's a tight area, the air will actually blow the paint straight back out. So in tight areas like that, and like the front door shuts, just dropping the pressure stops the air pressure from blowing the paint back out, and means you can get good coverage. Now, the whole bottom end of the van had been re-primed since the last video. We then went around the whole bottom with a 400 on the DA. There's a few little bits like sealer areas you can see there that I had to touch up. There was 2 little bits above that arch that I wasn't quite happy with, so I just did a quick little repair on them and blew a bit of primer on them, and got it all basically prepped up with 400 discs and 400 hand pads, ready to take the colour. Now, I only prepped it just above the middle swage line, because there's no point prepping the whole van and masking the top half off and then doing it that way, because we'd have to end up unmasking it, re-prepping part of it to fine line it all up, and so on and so on. So the easiest thing that I found to do with these is to just prep it sort of 6 inches above where you need it prepped to, paint the bottom half, mask the bottom half off, and then we can prep the top half and paint the top half. Now, obviously we're using a 2K gloss for this. It's quite, not cheap, but cost effective on stuff like this. It makes putting 3 good coats of colour down and getting good coverage and a good build on this quite cheap in respect to using like a base coat and a clear coat, especially on a van of this size and this sort of colour. It might take quite a bit of covering in base coat, so it makes it a little bit more cost effective. Now, you probably noticed that I'm spending a lot of time and taking a lot of time to make sure I get all these edges and all these gaps absolutely perfect, to make sure we get right down to the bottom of the sills and right down to the bottom of the arches and everywhere. What I don't want to end up doing after like literally probably over 100 hours work is end up missing some of these edges. It would absolutely do my nut in and completely and utterly let the van down. However, the biggest thing with this van that has completely done my head in and did get me a little bit down last night when I was editing this video up is that, unfortunately, very shortly the footage will cut off. Now, I'm not quite sure at the moment whether it's my GoPro or whether it was the memory card that's corrupt, but as you'll see in about a minute or so, the footage all of a sudden starts stuttering and just going all to crap, basically. So my biggest apologies to you guys who really wanted to see this van being painted, and also to our customer, who I know probably would have absolutely loved to see this van being painted. By the time you've watched this, he will have been down to have a look at it and have a view of it. So I'm hoping, you know, that that'll take away a bit of the annoyance that we've lost all the video footage for this. I tried a million things to try and correct the footage, but unfortunately, as you'll see in a second, the footage was just that bad. There was just no way I could make a video of it. And I didn't twig this until I'd painted the top half as well. So in the second half of this video, what I'm going to do is move away from the painting side of it. I'm going to show you how we fine lined everything out for the bottom end, what we did for prep work for the top end, and there you go. That is when the footage absolutely craps itself. So here's the shots of the finished bottom end. Now, as I said, we gave this 3 coats. By the time I'd been round the full van, I didn't need really to give it a flash off time because there was plenty of time going around the van. It probably took me around about 10, maybe 15 minutes per coat. Being really meticulous to get all the areas, make sure all of the underneaths are done, inside the light bowls, and all them little nooks and crannies are fully covered. So there was no need for any flash off times or anything as far as the van goes. So instead, what we'll do is we'll switch over to the prep for the top half and show you some of the fine line work. Hi guys, so in today's video, we're going to be taking a look now at painting the top end of this camper. So it's quite a small step because it's just the top around the windows and up to the gutter rail, because we've already done the roof. And obviously, as you guys saw in the last video, last week at some point, we did the whole bottom end. Now for me, this is the next day. I know for you guys, this is obviously the next week. But I thought I'd take you through, get you guys through, if I can speak, masking off and fine lining off the bottom end, and then the prep work that we're going to do on the top end, and then the actual paint of the top end, because that shouldn't take long at all. Obviously, like this side, it's very minimal. There's only really that back and a tiny bit on that pillar in the middle. And then obviously, again, the back end, there's next to nothing that's going white on the back there, and there's just round the windows and round the front. So I'm going to get everything set up and take you through the steps, and I'll have a bit of a chat with you about what I'm using and how I'm doing it as we go along throughout the video. So fine line tape wise, I'm using the J-tape green fine line. Personally, I really like this tape. Now, on the edges like this, when I was blocking the van out, I spent a lot of time making sure that the edges where this tape is going to sit was blocked to a very, very certain shape and a very certain point, so that when I put this down, I didn't have to mess around lining up every single panel on the van just to be able to paint the shell. Now when I come to paint the doors, I will fit the doors on once I've put the grey on them, just to make sure that those lines are perfect. But I know where this van sits at the moment, that all these lines that are on the actual body are perfectly blocked into the right place, because at each stage I've made sure that I block them in razor sharp so that I can get a nice fine line around there and get this van done nice and neat. Now, you don't always get the fine line on perfect first time. I've done a lot of fine line work over the years, and you can see there I've put it all on and I'm not quite happy with the end, so I'm going to pull the end off in a second and redo it and just straighten it up and just neaten it up to that swage line there, so I can get a real nice crisp edge right underneath there where it should be. Now if you ever paint one of these, I would recommend that you do the bottom first, because then you can butt your tape up underneath that line. If you did it the opposite way around, it would be an absolute pain and you just wouldn't end up with straight lines and it'd just look a mess. So personally, from my experience over the years, I found the best thing to do is do the bottom, get that done, and then like you see here, we're just DAing the little areas that I can, and then I'm using a 400 hand pad, and like in the back edges where it's a little bit tight and you just can't quite get the hand pad in, then just wrap it around something like a filler spreader, and you can get right into all those little corners and all those little nooks and crannies and sand everything out and make everything nice and crisp and neat. And I know it's around the window and there'll be a seal covering it, but it does make a difference. So that's pretty much the last bit for the shell now. And there it is. So the two colours that we've used, we've got the L90D on the top, we've got the L345 light grey on the bottom. It is a really nice colour combination. Everything's come out nice, quite happy with it. Small amount of orange peel, but I'm not really bothered about that. It'll still get a bit of a flat and polish before we're finished with it. But overall now, it is looking really nice. The colours really set the van off.
everything that I've done, as far as like the most important stuff, like where we fixed all the rails, obviously we did all the work to the windscreen lip where we welded a new windscreen lip in it. None of it now looks like it's been touched. Well, I say none of it looks like it's been touched. Obviously the whole van looks like it's been touched because it's now an immaculate van. But I mean, overall, you know, even down to like the fine line in there, we've got a really nice fine line all along in there, and you don't even see most of that in there, but I think it's still important that you get all that nice all round the vents. These are really tricky to paint round, but they're all really nice, and we've already painted on the inside of them, so once all that comes off, it'll be a really nice looking van. So one of the lads is going to sand up the interior, and then we'll basically opposite mask the van and just give the interior a quick flash over with white to make sure that's nice and fresh and new, so that everything matches in really. I don't want the outside looking really nice and the inside looking a bit tatty, so we'll just give that a quick flash over. Apart from obviously where we've Raptored, that will stay Raptor. But overall, I think now we've got a very nice looking bus. All the issues that it had originally have all been squared away and sorted out. I'm quite happy with it. There's a few tiny little bits, like there's a slight wobble in each of the back quarter panels, which just goes to show that even though we've put like an immense amount of blocking work into this van, you're always going to get a little bit of something in these vans, because no matter how hard you go, unless you really spend, you know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours and put new panels all the way around, they'll never be like as perfect as you want them. But compared to what this was and what the customer was after, this is a level above, which is kind of like what we like doing. You know, it's a little bit more than he's expected. It's a little bit more than we expected work-wise, but I can't leave something just partially done. It's just not our sort of style. I'd rather have it right. If it costs me an extra few hours, it costs me an extra few hours, but I'd rather just get it like that. So in the next video, I'll probably go through some of the paintwork on the doors, and then we'll get some drone footage of this outside with all the doors and everything on, so you guys can see the finished van. So thanks for watching, and bye for now.
So again guys, I just want to say a big apology from myself, the fact that we haven't got all the footage of the painting on this van. I'm absolutely gutted, because it would have made an absolutely amazing video for you guys to see the van come to life, as far as getting the bottom end done and the top end done. So I'm really sorry about that. I'm going to get the GoPro issue or the memory card issue sorted out tomorrow, which will be the day that you're watching this, in time so that when I do the doors and everything, I can get some video footage of them, and then we can include some painting footage for the van in the last video before we get the drone footage and the final shots of the van. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the bit that I could show you in this video, and I'll see you again soon for the next one. Have a good weekend.